Big changes are coming to the NFL, and
we fear change.
We're doomed. We are doomed. The NFL as we know it, cooked. Sportsmanship remains a major focus, and the league is cracking down on violent gestures and sexual taunting. Guys, that means this may be the last time we ever see a player try and fornicate the turf. God forbid a football field is properly fertilized, and heaven knows we'll never see Jake Bates get properly stretched out before making a kick. Ironically, two players who won't be affected by the sexual taunting celebrations are Justin Tucker and Deshaun Watson. Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm former NFL jockstrap model Brandon Perna, and it is that time of year again, April, where all of the NFL owners meet and decide on changing the rules of the game for no reason. Typically, they're voting on rule changes none of us want, and in their pursuit to make the game better, they execute the inverse. Sometimes it's in the name of safety, but typically it's in the veiled name of greed. This year, they got one rule change right, okay? Well, halfway correct. Two major changes have been approved. Hawkeye technology enters the NFL. Kirk Cousins appears to be headed to Cleveland. Aaron Rodgers threw a couple passes to DK Metcalf, but still hasn't made a decision. We're gonna break it all down here on That's Good Sports. We're officially less than 6,000 subscribers away from getting to 725,000, trying to get to that number before the NFL draft. Also trying to get 400 more signups on Underdog before the NFL draft. If you want to play daily fantasy or in pick'em games, do so at Underdog with my code That's Good. They got new specials for the start of the MLB season. And again, 400 more signups at Underdog, and I get a massive, massive bonus. It is the best way to support this channel this month through the next 4 weeks. So just use my code, and if you've signed up at Underdog with my code, make sure you make your first play so that sign up counts. And let's see if we can do it. Does Browns owner Jimmy Haslam regret signing Deshaun Watson?
We definitely fucked up getting Deshaun Watson.
Yes, he does.
We didn't really care if he was getting his dinger tugged on as long as he could play football. Well, it turns out he can't.
Now that may be AI, Jimmy, but it's the most real talk we've had about Watson in a while.
I'm such a shitty owner that the fans would rather have Art Modell's corpse running this team.
Unless you consider Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, and Ryan Clark praising Watson's agent, real talk.
Let's pause for, I'll let you continue, Shannon, but let's pause for a second.
Go ahead.
David Muguleta, our brother, is doing his thing.
Yeah, Mulligetta, yeah.
That's one of the best in the business.
Hey, guys. You said the quiet part out loud. Now, there's no greater sign of regret about the Watson signing than the Browns' interest in trading for a broken Kirk Cousins.
Knowing Kevin Stefanski coached Kirk Cousins when he was in Minnesota, it makes a lot of sense.
Browns thing makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Browns thing makes a lot of sense.
A couple weeks ago, the Atlanta Falcons paid Kirk Cousins a $10 million roster bonus. What I didn't realize is that was a $10 million guaranteed bonus for the 2026 NFL season. Kirk is due $27.5 million in base salary for this upcoming 2025 season. If the Falcons trade Kirk Cousins, the team trading for him would assume a portion of that salary, and the Falcons would avoid taking on his full $75 million dead cap hit for this season. I don't really give a fuck about the cap logistics of a Kirk Cousins trade, and neither should you. Unless, of course, you're a Browns fan. Oh shit, sorry. The Falcons are saying they would love to have Big Kirko as a backup quarterback in 2025, and I think that would actually be a nice situation for Michael Penix as he takes on the starting job. If you believe having a veteran QB in the QB room is a good thing, which I do, assuming that QB understands his role. Big Kirko, though, is saying he wants to start, which means he does not understand that role, and the thought now is Kirk Cousins would waive his no-trade clause in order to execute a trade. As the world waits for Aaron Rodgers to announce that he'll play for the Steelers, that leaves the Browns as the only viable option for Cousins.
It makes a lot of sense.
Browns thing makes a lot of sense.
The Steelers would reportedly be interested in Cousins if Rodgers ultimately rejects them. Now, Kirk Cousins appears to be waiting until after the NFL draft to decide if he will waive his no-trade clause. And I wonder why Kirk wants to see who an NFL team is going to draft before he makes that decision.
The Atlanta Falcons select Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, it's still not ringing any bells. Kirk Cousins signing with the Cleveland Browns makes absolutely no sense to me, because you would have to believe that Kirk Cousins has some very good football left in the tank. And based on what I watched last year, I do not think he does. Now, I think he has exactly enough good football left in the tank to keep the Browns in quarterback hell. They will not be picking top 5 next year if Kirk Cousins starts this season for them. That I know. If Kirk Cousins plays well, they will be a fringe playoff team at best. Kirk Cousins' best football, even in his prime, still wasn't spectacular. It's why the Steelers are far more interested in a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers who appears to be asking for a lot more money than Kirk. Now, you may not love Shedeur Sanders, but if the Browns don't draft a QB at 2, or say even 33, who has, more potential to dig them out of their Deshaun Watson grave based on potential and being on a rookie contract than Cousins does, I apologize right now, Cleveland. I think Cleveland has a solid roster. I get why they would be appealing to Kirk Cousins. And if they do draft Abdul Carter at number 2, like everyone believes, their defense should be very good. People still believe Kevin Stefanski is a great coach. That's an ideal situation for a fucking rookie, not a guy who is probably going to get worse every year and keep you out of contention of actually finding a franchise QB. Now, Aaron Rodgers had a little throwing sesh with Steelers receiver DK Metcalf. If you don't think the Steelers need Aaron Rodgers, just take a look at how nervous Mike Tomlin is. To say he's sweating this one out is a massive understatement. Aaron, for the love of God, make a decision before poor Mike Tomlin dies of dehydration, please.
But I don't have any new updates in terms of where the process is. We'll see where it leads us.
I think Aaron throwing balls to DK ensures this is a done deal. It's just about the two sides agreeing on money at this point. The Steelers have plenty of cap space this season and next season to make it work. The only X factor at this point becomes what the Steelers think of this quarterback draft class, and nobody loves an underwhelming QB draft like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jalen Milroe has been linked to Pittsburgh, which I actually love if the Steelers do land Aaron Rodgers. Milroe has so much upside if he goes to the right situation. The one thing I found odd, though, was this is the only video we got from Rodgers and DK's throwing session. What's that, like a 25, 30-yard pass? Which makes me mildly concerned that not a single cool throw was leaked from that throwing session. How did the NFL decide to try and ruin the game we all love this year? That's the big question. The NFL approved touchbacks on kickoffs coming all the way out to the 35-yard line instead of the 30 in an effort to increase kick returns. We have watched touchbacks go from the 20 to the 25 to the 30 and now to the 35. The NFL wants more kick returns, and last season returns did jump up to 28%, which was a big increase from an all-time low of 18.3%, which it hit in 2023. It's still a far cry from the return rates of 60+% of the 90s and the 2000s. I understand 5 yards isn't a huge deal in and of itself, but this is how they get us, guys. They make changes slowly, so they don't feel like major sacrifices at the time. One day, we're all gonna wake up, and any kickoff that goes into the end zone will automatically result in the offense starting the drive in the fucking red zone. Here's the real problem, though. If you want to encourage more kick returns, you need to spot the ball back at the 20. The return team needs to believe they have a better chance at getting more yards. Getting an auto start at the 35 means The side of the ball that makes the decision to return the ball has more to lose by doing a fucking kick return. So maybe this prevents more kicks from going out of the back of the end zone. I get that, but I don't believe this will double the return rate like they're suggesting. A major win for the NFL is the implementation of Sony's Hawkeye technology to measure first downs. Calling it Hawkeye technology is smart. I don't care what it does, I'll support something called Hawkeye technology because it sounds fucking cool. Hawkeye technology will actually be used to measure the circumference of a player's sphincter on any given play. Cool, do it. As long as I hear Hawkeye once a broadcast, you can use it to shoot tranquilizers into streakers for all Oh, how cool would that be?
Makes a lot of sense.
Oh, tranquilizers shot through the eyes of hawks to stop streakers? And I don't care how it actually works. When I hear Hawkeye technology, this is what I'm gonna see in my head. And that bird is telling the referees where to spot the ball in my brain. And if your first thought is, Perna, that's actually an eagle, not a hawk. Shut up. Quit being so goddamn literal. The Tush Push. The good news, the league has tabled the Tush Push talks for now. The bad news is that means there's still a possibility it can get banned at some point. 16 owners support the ban, which means 16s oppose it. Which means there are 8 votes, 8 swing votes away from a change passing. Will 8 owners change their mind by May when the owners meet again? No, I doubt it. Unless the Eagles can beat 8 of those teams in the playoffs by then, or Super Bowl. There's been a modification to the overtime rules. In the event an NFL game goes into OT in the regular season, both teams will now get an opportunity to possess the ball, even if the offense scores a touchdown on the opening drive. So the playoff overtime rules now apply to the regular season, with the one modification being overtime is now capped at 10 minutes. If this rule eventually helps my team, the Denver Broncos, win a regular season football game, I love it. If it fucks them, I hate it. I'm 40.
I'm a man! I'm 40!
You guys know that. Some of you like calling me a boomer. And don't get me wrong, I have my fair share of get off my lawn takes, but listening to Troy Vincent bitch about player celebrations reminds me that I have yet to actually join the dark side. All right, I have no issue with CeeDee Lamb wiping his nose. The NFL claims that gesture has gang ties. Yes, gangs, that's gangs. And that's just what you say when you want to change something, right? I don't know if it's the Crips or the Bloods, but whichever gang detests a runny nose has my full support. Players could face penalties for air humping celebrations. That's right, pelvic thrusting, boning of O2, as it's known by the kids. Troy Vincent, who is the executive VP of football operations, hit us with the
"Won't somebody please think of the children?"
reasoning for cracking down on, quote, violent or sexual celebrations. You know what? Actually, I think Troy Vincent's right. The greatest threat to our children is what professional athletes do after scoring a touchdown or getting a first down. What was I even thinking? I mean, unplanned pregnancies in this country stopped the moment Dan Marino quit doing this after every touchdown he threw. And there was 1,000% increase in childhood deaths by way of bow and arrow when this shit started.
Penalized for simulating shooting a bow and arrow. This is a foul.
So you're right, Troy, and I apologize. And finally, the replay review. The NFL did take one small step forward in helping the on-field officials by expanding the replay assist from the booth. The on-field officials will receive help, but only on penalties that are flagged. This will help them correct calls like hitting a defenseless player, horse collar tackles, tripping, and roughing the passer, etc. And that's great. Making sure roughing is indeed roughing is what we all want. Allowing a good, clean, hard hit to stand is what we demand. However, if Sam Darnold gets his head ripped off and they don't throw a flag, that is not eligible for correction by replay assist. They can only aid plays where flags have already been thrown. None of us want to see more penalties in football games. That's unanimous. And there becomes a weird gray area when you wonder how many penalties an all-seeing eye would add if they had the ability to do so. Where I think the league messed up is by not including the ability to correct a face mask on the quarterback. If a QB's head is ripped off his torso and the official doesn't flag it, allow the replay assist to find Sam Darnold's head, walk it over to the official and say, yeah, that's a flag. Reattach this to his fucking bleeding neck and give the defense a 15-yard penalty, please. Look, if the entire world knows it's a missed call, it should be correctable. But this expansion is a start. I'll give the NFL that. The wording here is what's funny, though. It allows for a correction when clear and obvious video evidence is present. Unless, of course, this is the clear and obvious video evidence.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. Trying to get to 725,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. I can't do it alone, guys. Quite literally. I mean, I guess I could buy a bunch of fake subs, but that wouldn't be fulfilling, would it?